We have to give it our fucking all because, like, the whole team's here.
If they're getting a leader like you leading them, like, they're amplified.
I get so nervous before these things. What can we do here to help build that culture of positive reinforcement? You know, it's like you get like frozen. And I know I've been so. I'm really excited to reinforce our culture and values. We're having our first full Acquisition.com team meetup here in Las Vegas. So over the next few days, we're gonna be talking about the vision for the culture of the company, and I thought it'd be super cool if we could record the behind the scenes. So we have me, and then we have Alex, and then a break. Is that how it's going? You guys could see what it's actually like. I think what I'm most excited for people to see from this team meetup is just what it really feels like to have a high-performing team. So if you're interested in working at Acquisition.com, you've ever looked at our careers website, or if you've subscribed to Hormozi Talent, this is kind of what it looks like on the other side. So I felt like it would be really valuable to give people insight into that.
I've never been a part of an environment like this where people are genuinely rooting each other on.
Yeah, being a remote company, I love that we actually have events like this where we can actually step back, meet each other in person, put faces and personalities to names.
My name's Tobias Allen. I am the Director of Marketing here at Acquisition. So I think one of the things that Alex and Leila have done for reinforcing both the values and creating a culture that people are excited to be a part of is actually living the values themselves.
Next speaker. All right. You guys will notice that Jason and Trevor are filming. So we are filming the next 2 days. Now they are primarily filming myself and Alex. They were going to ask some of you if you want to add to the film.
In discussing with the team, we all felt like it would be so cool to show what it's like when the team comes together.
And I think a lot of people, they assumed like we ruled with fear. It's actually quite the opposite of that. I think that we've created this environment where people are high performing because they love what they do, not because they're scared of the consequences of if they don't do the job. That's why I really wanted to display this in the vlog, as I just felt like it's invaluable for people to see it, because I think it's one thing to say what you do, but it's another thing to show it to people. So I'll tell you guys a story. My first job out of college was 24-hour fitness. What I didn't realize was that when I got to 24-hour fitness, I actually ended up with one of the best leaders that I could have asked for. His name is Mike. In hindsight, the reason that job was so enjoyable, you know, he had very clear communication. He always did one-on-ones and took time to see, like, how do I feel? What's my development like? So then they actually asked Mike to go open a new location. You know, you've got not Mike coming to take over. And I will never forget the first meeting, and he sat us down, and I've never heard someone say fuck so many times in my life. He was like, you fucking young motherfuckers, listen up. Because here, I'm not doing any more of this shit. Okay, we're gonna get our numbers up, and we're all like, our numbers are up. You know, like the things he was saying made no sense. He just continued to swear at us, yell at us. It was the first meeting I was just like, holy crap, who's this guy? It was just complete polar opposite. I remember we started Gym Launch, you know, years later. I kept thinking to myself, like, I know what a difference it is to have an absolutely horrible boss and leader, or no leader, right? And then to have one that is, you know, truly investing in people, praising people, encouraging people, because I experienced it firsthand. Like the 3 words that I remember feeling is like confused, unhappy, and anxious, like constantly in a state of anxiety. And it's crazy to me to think that just the person that leads an organization or even leads a department can create that for everybody else on the team. Does anyone want to take a guess at what the difference was between Mike and not Mike?
Mike praised, not Mike.
Hey. Yes. So Mike used positive reinforcement to get people to do stuff, to put it simply, right? Not Mike used punishment to get people to do stuff. Taking those concepts, what can we do here to help build that culture of positive reinforcement? That's really what I wanted everyone to be able to walk away with. And the reason I wanted to relay this information is because it's not something one person can do alone. I wanted to discuss the topic of praise over punishment at the team meetup because it's something that I personally study a lot. I implement a lot. Like, given where we're at as a company, you know, we're only like 2 years in. It's not like I have leisurely time to invest in teaching these things to the team. And so I wanted to make the time by putting together this team meetup where we can focus on a lot more of the internal infrastructure.
And because on the subject of positive reinforcement, this guy is positive reinforcement. Like, being around him is like, makes you just feel so good and just excited to be, I think, alive in a world that is very judgmental. You are not that, and you're amazing.
I think one of my biggest takeaways was that there's a punishment style of management and a positive reinforcement style of management, and both of those can work, but you just have to think about where your priorities are, and I think it was powerful to hear that.
I want to introduce Neil. Neil took a big step this year and moved in with his girlfriend.
Let's go.
Frank and I originally didn't understand the assignment. We were talking about our greatest accomplishments in our life. So if you want to learn more about that, I can tell you later. But so we quickly were passing each other notes on what our actual accomplishments were this year. And I was like, Frank, how many people did you hire this year? So I had a number that I thought was. Does anyone have any guess?
Like 12. Oh, he has 4 coats.
12, 25.
Hell yeah.
When I joined, the team was Alex, Leila, Suzanne, and Yasmin, but quickly the team has grown. I mean, our first in-person meeting was the whole company because it was just 5 of us.
So I'm introducing Tyler, and his big win this year is he got hired.
Alex had a book launch. $500,000.
I would say that one of the core skill sets that every business that I've ever built has been recruiting. I don't really see another resource that's more valuable to pour into than having the right people on the team.
I want to introduce Sheila.
Yeah. Who's Sheila?
I'm happy to introduce myself. Look around. This is my accomplishment this year.
How we go about finding perfect people is that in other hiring processes, people don't share those. There's a lot that's left unsaid, and then that's where maybe the expectations aren't even always clear. What I've tried to do very differently is say it and put it all out on the table. Everything for me connects back to the requirements of what we're looking for. And so some of the stuff that we'll ask the hiring managers, think about the prevalent skills on the team. We don't want to hire another Trevor. We want to hire someone who complements Trevor so perfectly. Some hiring managers are a lot better at it than others, and that's where Caleb's superpower. He comes in having really thought through all of that.
I'm gonna cry probably, just a side note, but Alex, I love you, man. The way that you have created an ability to rethink through emotion and situations, it's been really impactful for me. The way that I analyze situations when I'm struggling or feeling like I'm succeeding, either way, I look at it completely differently. And then Leila, I don't mean this in the cringy cliche term. I mean like, I feel seen by you. For some weird reason, when I'm having a little bit of a day, you somehow seem to like appear. And just the way that you have, again, given me permission to be like, it's okay to have a shitty day and you can still do shit.
No, what nobody knows is that every media team that I've ever seen, there's no organization where it's like complete bureaucracy and there's no creativity. And you have found a way to bridge both together, having never done it before. Just the fact that you care about everybody on the team and you care about the brand and achieving the goals. And I think that your ability to hold all of those 3 priorities equally is what makes you so great at what you do, and it's why everyone just fucking loves working with you.
I think that the way that Alex and Leila interact with everybody on the team is incredible. The fact that Leila takes the time to reach out to every single editor, you know, every writer, a designer, whatever, that is incredible and pretty unique compared to a lot of work scenarios. And as the brand has grown, as acquisition.com has grown, Alex and Leila really prioritize the media team rather than just like the weird animal in the corner that makes the videos kind of thing.
The request that was made of me was to talk about branding. Everyone who comes in contact with our content doesn't know who we are. And so what we're doing is the thing that hopefully they should know something about. So if you didn't know what the Nike swoosh was, and I were to continue to pair and associate it, then eventually I could eliminate all these and just have the logo, and you would feel the same way about it. All we are doing with everything that we do from a branding perspective is we take us and we associate with something. I can say, it's kind of like this, which we both know, and then I can make the comparison. And if you're like, wow, that sounds a lot like teaching, that's a lot of what branding is. Well, if brands are so powerful, then how do we grow brands?
If you were to label some of the associations that the brand currently has.
For us?
Yes.
Their brand and the information that they give out, whether it's the books or that content, is what creates the demand for partnership with us. But the businesses we take on, we have an extreme amount of influence. In fact, the reason they want to partner with us is the influence that we have on their business.
When I think of the brand of acquisition.com, I want it to be known for two things. I think one is operationalizing excellence, and on the other side, I think platform to elevate others. When you work with acquisition.com, like, you will always be better than when you came in.
If you're gonna put the 3 words on the wall for you and you're standing up here, what would the 3 words be? Yeah, it's our personal brand.
Okay. So after Alex's presentation, we went into this activity around personal brand, which was we're all asked to write down 3 things that we would use to describe ourselves. And then as we picked the different things that described one another, we have to guess who wrote that about themselves.
Plays pickleball.
Sam.
Polos. Shirt. I am obsessed with the number 3. Oh my God, that was so fast. Dad.
Dad.
Being cracked.
If you know, you know.
Hiring.
Frank.
You can't have 5 of the same person on a team. I always see skills as like this pointy star, and it could, in some stars, have more points than others, but there's always a valley in between 2 points. And so the ideal person on the team's points fits in those valleys. And so then they just all start sort of like connecting together.
Like, it's like, looking across the board, it's like, and I'm like, wow, we have really good people.
It's cool.
One of the biggest things is, for me, is culture. Simple things like transparency, collaboration, honesty, and just like having fun at work. That was what drove me to come here. How do you take this philosophy down to managing of the portfolio company?
I think there's a lot of parts of our portfolio that are still working on the leadership aspect. Success is not about the mechanics, it's about what you're doing, but about like the way you're leading people and the people that you surround yourself with. If you have a great group of people, you can be really successful.
I think a lot of people look at their business as, let me just get whoever agrees to the role. Whereas I've always looked at it like an NFL draft, which is like, who do I need to draft? What kind of skills do they have? What are their values? That's always been a core focus of mine, because who is the one that is making the vision come to life? At the end of the day, it's not you, it's your team.
All right, who's hooking up the music? Who got a good playlist?
Tyler, hop on your back.
So one of my favorite parts of the meetup was actually we took a party bus and then went to go axe throwing. Dad, help me! It was cool to see how incredibly awful some people were, like myself, and how incredibly talented others were, like my dad.
Your dad's really good at this. Like,
Fucking. Feels great.
It really feels like everyone also like wants to be here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, people are enjoying it. They want to be here.
I know.
They're engaging with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get to interact with Tyler every day.
Yeah.
I don't get to interact with Nadia. I haven't talked to Nadia since she joined the company.
Yeah.
And so like some of the most, I think the most meaningful interactions has been like
Getting to know them.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's cool.
And they're like so interested in what we're doing on the more portfolio side. I'm also so interested in what they do.
Yeah.
It's like the media side. So.
But it's really cool because like I feel like both teams do what they do so well.
You were like the easiest person to interview with.
Really?
Yeah. Even though I was like super nervous, I was like, dude, like, I'm meeting the fucking CEO. Like, I was nervous.
I'm so fucking nervous. I remember thinking to myself, that was a terrible interview. And I was like, and she fucking cares. And the fact that you cared that much, I was like, she is the kind of person I want to work with. And it was so interesting because it's like, I think all that shit about like how well people interview is such bullshit. Because I was like, I could just tell.
I didn't realize that a lot of these people hadn't met each other.
Yeah.
Some of these people I had seen like this much above.
Well, we have another day.
Tomorrow, do you have to talk?
Neil, Caleb, Sheila, Ben. So they all have presentations. I'm actually really excited. If people trust each other, they'll communicate better. If people like each other, they'll work better together. You know, some people might look at this and be like, that's so soft, what a waste of money. I think that's bullshit, because if you look at like what correlates with the highest performing teams, it's not intelligence and it's not skill of an individual member of the team. It's actually communication of the sum of the parts.
Yeah, we got the watermelon, we got the potatoes, and we got the eggs.
Leila asked me to build out the team meetup. I was really nervous. She was like, okay, don't worry. It's gonna be fine no matter what.
What it was pitched to me was like, we're basically going to acknowledge people who were voted to stand out in terms of like one of these core values that we have.
I want to ask Justin, Paul, Frank, and Tyler to stand up for a second and let us recognize you. Gentlemen have all demonstrated various values of ours, but before I get into the ones that I remember, who here believes they know why one of these guys or all of them, what do you think they were recognized for? What do you think they were nominated for?
Tyler has like continued to completely and very quickly evolve his skill set.
I mean, hiring, I think, 25 people this year, the amount of volume that goes into that behind the scenes. And I know we've had quite a few conversations where Frank is just so hungry to learn.
I was gonna say, I think we throw a lot at Justin.
But like if you look at his calendar, it's arguably the most full calendar of the entire company. And you never hear him say he's tired, never complain. He's always super excited.
And I'll go ahead and speak for Paul, because I nominated Paul for unimpeachable character. It is important to me that all of the people we hire, whether they're sitting in this room or they're sitting in a portfolio, they have a phenomenal experience. Paul came back to me and I was like, that's why your home is here. These next few people, I'm gonna call and ask that you stand up. Nadia, Trevor, conflict of interest for a moment, but you're standing. Davina and Hunter. You're being recognized because several people in this room actually nominated you. Tyler, come on, man, let's hear it.
I think for Trevor, working with him, he has demonstrated not only unimpeachable character, but competitive greatness as well. Just being able to like adapt to situations.
Hunter, you are an incredible leader. You do an amazing job of showing people around you everything that is ancillary to an edit, right? Like timelines, keeping everyone updated, throwing in ideas on thumbnails when nobody's asked you to. Like, there is just like such a level of leadership that you display that I'm also very grateful for.
Operationalizing creativity. That was what I thought when you sent me the document, and I was like, so awesome, because I think to be creative, you know, you put it in that SOP, and when you shared it with me, it helps me too, because we're obviously doing it together, and so it's so helpful.
I'll say something about Davina, because you know I couldn't do what I do without you. You have. No, I'm seriously though, I have worked with many other executive assistants. Like, you're so professional, you bring ideas to the table, you bring solutions, and like, I'm just happy to have you as my partner and like in acquisition, so thank you.
This is the team. I couldn't think of a better group to do it with. I think just the coolest part was just like, nobody wanted to stop. The last group of people here blow us all away. That is sincere. It's a real, I'm sorry, Davina, I'm trying so hard to hold it together. Stop. All right, I'm good. No, but it means a lot to me to see how the people that we pull into the organization, how they impact us all and each other on a day-to-day basis. And so this group of people received more nominations than everybody else. Jason, you were one of these people. Jacob, you are one of these people. Lizzie, also one of these people. Yasmin. Tobias.
I think that recognition is always something that we can do more of, and I think that the way that we did it as well was one in which everyone was recognized for something. So nice to hear, because I think what we forget, and what I forget, is that a lot of people don't have that in their normal day-to-day life. And I think that if you want to create a really great work environment, like, do in the workplace what people don't get outside of that. I had the advantage of being able to provide a place like that at work where we do take time to do that.
A lot of people in here are really impressed with how hard you come every single day to this job.
I mean, Yasmin, come on guys, like the fact that she doesn't even need, like, she's just a G and with everything she does, and what I admire about her is her ability to be transparent and have those hard conversations when it needs to be had for the better of the company and how we run. And she's just amazing.
Yasmin is just, we're coming up on 6 years together, and I could really not do any of this shit without her. And she has done so far beyond things that an executive assistant should even do. Just like, I remember one time something spilled in my house, you brought a fucking vacuum. When I had my surgery, you put pants on me. I mean, we've been pretty close. And it's just, I think one thing that you do so well is you're just so non-judgmental and work so hard. Time over time, you're constantly improving, constantly trying to get better. And so I just appreciate the shit out of you.
But I know you guys have also went so far above and beyond on the back end of the book launch. Just the sheer volume of hours that you guys are putting in after doing all the other stuff and having families and kids and husbands and trips on the weekend. We mean it when we're we don't deserve you. We mean that. You guys are unbelievable. You guys do such a good job of setting the tone wherever we go, because you guys are the first impression anyone gets of Leila and I. And so you guys are so fucking on it and dialed, and everyone knows that. And it just then becomes the reflection of the entire rest of the company.
I'll go next. I personally nominated Jason because this guy is just incredible, which everyone here knows that. Talking to him after a conversation, you can't help but smile, like Sam said. He drives you to want to be better by how good he is, which is very rare, because sometimes you can maybe see that as a competition, but it's a different kind of competition. It's let's just all be good together, and he brings that energy. So I had to nominate this guy because he's 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10, 1 of 0. Great guy.
You are incredibly industrious, you work so fucking hard, but you're also incredibly enthusiastic.
One more from Mr. Jason. Jason moved to Vegas before he even started. That says it all right there. Jason is down as fuck for whatever needs to happen. Any extra request anybody on the team makes, anything, he's always yeah, cool. Smile. Everything everyone has said is so true. And I feel better talking to you every time. I see the hunger that you have to excel at this craft. It's contagious, man. It's really cool, and it's really inspiring for everybody on the team.
And then what can I say about these three? I love you guys, honestly, right? You guys make it really easy to work with you every day. As a unit, the way you all click. I've been in a lot of high-performing teams and seen high-performing teams before, and nothing really ranks anywhere close to this. And I think it's because, so you have the aptitude component, but you have the attitude component too. You want to help everyone. Jacob, for example, I think you're obviously a master at sales, and our Portco companies say that all the time. You've driven just incredible improvements across a wide variety of different situations. I remember we had a one-on-one once, and you were yeah, my whole attitude is just, if I can keep learning, this is gonna be fun for me. And that's you in a nutshell. And then Lindsay, I think obviously your experience in customer success, value that they want Lindsay to be involved. I also think you have an incredible muscle, which is the ability to coach and to bring people together. I've seen that with our portfolio companies, but also I've seen it with the way you brought Jacob and Tobias and myself all together. And I think that that's created that chemistry for us all to work well together.
I wanted to say thank you to Lindsay. For the book launch, Ben passed the baton over to me to run the support team, and boy was that a damn challenge. I don't think I could have done it if you hadn't come in and helped. I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from you, so thank you so much.
Thank you. This is just a love fest between Yasmin and I right now.
Tobias, I'll just tell the story. Tobias basically ran with the entire affiliate program for the book launch. We had 27,000 affiliates sign up, and I found this out not having prompted Tobias from the number 38 affiliate who was hey, I got this email from your affiliate manager, and it was a personalized email from Tobias that I had not asked him to send, urging them to email the list again with ideas of what they could do. And that was like number 38. And so he just took the entire list and was like, I'm gonna push them. And when we had like, I don't know, 20,000 opt-ins from affiliates, I was like, this is awesome. He's like, I think we can do more.
My goal in doing the nominations was the primer, right? Is like you get people to start thinking about the day-to-day things that people do. It's like, okay, so we've done this, you know, like on text. Now we're gonna share this one-on-one. Then like you sort of elevate the trust and the vulnerability. And then the goal was by the end of the day, people would be really feeling that cohesiveness of being together all day, but of also kind of having learned more about ourselves.
Because everybody here, because of the standards that we have and that we hope to continue to aspire towards, we all want to keep pushing the envelope. We all want to get better. And I feel like that's a common theme of like doing whatever you do exceptionally well. And it's cool for everyone here because we all have outside perspectives of what it was like not here. But I feel like that is the standard. And this is almost like an acknowledgement of that.
How do you increase communication? Typically by increasing the opportunities in which people can form relationships with each other. With where we're growing as a company and how fast we've added people to the team, it just provides a better environment to form those relationships that you wouldn't otherwise on Zoom.
Jimmy, Michael, Kayla, Neil, like, your teams freaking love you guys.
Like I feel like we're really close here.
And if any of you guys want to speak up and speak to one of your managers or something that you've acknowledged about them and you would like to say that here, please do.
Neil, really help our portfolio partners and brainstorm, and just, you're never not supported.
I think your character is the thing that I am most impressed by. The way that you think about everyone on the YouTube team and then everyone regardless on the team, and the way that you handle that, I think is remarkable.
This phrase that I'd heard a long time ago and I'd never been able to practice until now, like, pick your boss, not your job. And like, this is an incredible job, but like, I think you really are such an amazing boss, and because you're a great person.
I'm gonna speak to Mr. Jimmy here, because you have come in and taken so much. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, you're doing that with everybody on the team. You care about everybody.
Like you've seen where there's been a lot of changes that happen on the team. And you have constantly been taking things off my plate that are not within your job description. Like you're so far along in your career and yet you still are that hungry and still striving to be better. It's just such a great example for everybody else on the team.
Ben's perspective and just the way he hears things and then kicks it back to someone else. You talk a lot. I love listening though. I really do, because I always learn something from you.
Leila, thank you for always hearing me and listening. I think it's just one of your special skills. Of course, you have many, but you check in with me on these in like the moments that I feel like right? And she just has this like special talent to check in right at that moment, but you mean it. You want to know how we're doing, and I would just say that it's very unique. That is not something that a leader of a company, both of y'all also do this very well, but I would just say in general, Leila.
The best part of my day today. Tomorrow's gonna be even better.
I think the biggest thing that makes acquisition.com a unique place to work is it's the culture. And it's not this fake thing where people are like, oh, great job, you did great there. It's like really, truly, we all look at each other and we all want to push ourselves to the next level. And especially with the leadership team, they all really care about our development. The culture they're bringing in, they're going to bring something really, really big. And I really do think it's going to change the way people view leadership.
I think I just feel grateful that everyone wants to work here and likes working here. I feel like I would hate my life if I walked into this room and felt like there were some people that didn't want to be here. I feel grateful that I have more skill now, that I can actually communicate what we're trying to do and put words to what kind of culture we want to build. Tomorrow, I think we have 4 presentations. Each person presenting is presenting on what I would consider is their unfair advantage, what makes them so good at what they do. And so I'm really excited to listen. And I'm excited for everyone else to too. So I think 2 things in my mind, which is transfer knowledge from the leadership team to the entire team. That would be beneficial for everybody. And then the second is reinforce our culture and values. The nature of acquisition.com is that a lot of what we do with our portfolio companies is explain things, teach things. And so I can't think of better people to teach the rest of the team than the leaders on our team that are doing that on a daily basis. When you have leaders that can speak to the rest of the team, they have context and they can contextualize the lessons, which makes it easier for people to remember and apply.
So the presentations, especially bends on biases.
And then it ends with a thunderous round of applause.
Got you.
It's giving office.
That's the intro.
Talk to somebody that you don't normally get to talk. Portfolio team, talk to media. Media, talk to portfolio.
Getting to kind of like hear and see different departments that don't work directly together and aren't as familiar with what each other are working on and the efforts we are putting in. Like everybody is putting it on the line and like striving for something better, ultimately to help accomplish the mission of acquisition.com. The goal here is to talk about building a personal brand as an employee.
I felt like this was the best topic for Caleb to discuss because I think it's what he's best at. He has built his career off of his reputation.
So I wanted to start with a quote from Mr. Alex here. Basically just recapping what he spoke about yesterday. Brand is simply an association between two or more things. For the brand to be successful, the audience has to understand one of them. Here is a simple example. I am going to use my face here. If you don't know me, you might make some assumptions about me because I'm wearing like a plain black hat or whatever, but there's not a whole lot to go off of. If you add in a Harley-Davidson logo on my hat, that all of a sudden changes how you perceive me. But it might also make you think that I'm just a hipster who thinks that Harley-Davidson is a great brand. Either way, it changes how you view me. Possibly the biggest part though is that your brand is not one thing, it's a collection of things that people associate you with. Because you are building your personal brand whether you want to or not. We all in this room have personal brands because yesterday we went around the room and we read things about each other and guessed. And a lot of us guessed right. Your personal brand affects how your coworkers interact with you. It affects the opportunities that come your way. It's basically just reputation. And so a quick story time for how I have used this. When I was like 15, I read a book, it was called Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, and it basically predicted that people would be able to make videos and content and talk about things they're interested in for a full-time living. And I quickly was like, cool, this is what I'm going to do. I was in a small town in Washington, and I had the opportunity to work for a company that he owned in New York City. I went into it with a very specific goal in mind. And that goal was to have my brand be Caleb can do it. I wanted them to come to the conclusion that like, Caleb can do that. Caleb can do that video. Caleb can handle that. And so in order to do that, I said yes to almost everything, any project that came my way. I think a lot of people view personal branding as talking about things rather than doing things that form the opinions that others have of your brand. And so it led to the outcome that I was hoping for, right? And so why did those big projects I was hoping for come to me? Well, because the CEO associated me with those things that I listed on the previous slide. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Alex was talking about how brands can shift over time. So do you think we can do that with personal brands too? Like, and then how, if somebody maybe had some negative associations that as they've grown and matured, that now they're wanting to disassociate in favor of a more positive. How would you suggest they go about that?
Great question. If we show up late to meetings, we can start showing up to meetings on time and it changes our personal brand. It's literally just making little shifts like that.
It's just like, it clicked for me. It's like, if you want career growth, you almost need reputational growth through your brand growth in the company. And I think there's a lot of people in this room that like, they know that they want some eventually to have a different opportunity in the company or like within the portfolio companies or like as the company grows. And it's like, if you know what that is, then just like a brand progresses over time, your personal brand must. If you want to be a leader, start acting like a leader and you get that brand and then you will get a position.
100%. It's like applying the influencer model that everyone does externally on social within the company you work within in order to accomplish what you are actually wanting to accomplish.
I remember when I was a younger man, I went into a catering company. I was the youngest guy there, and everybody there was an adult. And so I was like, what am I like? And I came in really deliberately, like I want just everybody there to think I'm the hardest working guy here. And so then the owner ended up putting me on more jobs, paying me more than the adults and all this stuff because like I had no ego about it. But it's just like, when I went to a different job, I didn't have that like, what was my tagline? And I kind of like I faltered for a little bit until I figured out, yeah, that worked really well before coming in with an intention.
I mean, I think it's interesting because the only reason we even met was because I put the posting up for the position, and then Ed Turney texted me and was like, I know this guy, he's got a crazy reputation, he's from Gary Vee, and he just moved to Vegas, like, he would be perfect. And I was like, how do you even know? And he was like, I just know, like, that's what everybody says. And then we got on the call, and then I was like, oh shit, it is what everybody says, like, you're fucking awesome. And now here we are.
Filming and making content becomes really important in building a brand because it is the way to amplify the brand that currently exists. The real is the documentation side of things, is to show the expertise and show the demonstration of it. I think it's far more powerful to see Leila in a bad day and how she handles that and how she communicates with Alex, how she communicates with the team, how she makes decisions when she is really stressed. And in my opinion, it is the closest thing that we can get to mentorship at scale, is being able to see them practically handle that rather than just talk about it.
I think for people watching, if you have a business or you're aspiring to have a business, if you're wondering what does a good leadership team look like I can confidently say there's one on display here. Now Ben, our Managing Director of Business Development, is going to give his presentation on 5 cognitive biases.
So welcome. We're going to talk today about behavioral biases. Our mental shortcuts or behavioral biases can lead to poor decision making and bad outcomes that negatively impact your career. And learning strategies to mitigate behavioral biases can help you and your team kick ass and take names. The heuristics, impulses, gut feelings to quickly decide. It works fast, but it is prone to error. However, thinking slow is a very deliberate approach, one that is aware of process, considers all the ways in which you might screw something up. 5 biases. Number 1, status quo bias. And so this is the preference for the maintenance of a current state. And this is an emotional bias because it is an emotional need for things to remain as they are now. And let's talk about some mitigating strategies for status quo bias. When you're making a decision as a group especially, always ask the question, what decision represents the status quo? Ensure you have options that are not the status quo. Number 2, groupthink. Groupthink is a behavioral bias that occurs within a group of people whereby the desire for harmony in the group suppresses dissenting viewpoints and critical thinking. So let's talk mitigating strategy. Reward rich discussion and debate. If you've made a decision, seek external opinions. Someone who is not in the group. It's like media team, like ask me. I might have no idea, but at least I come at it from a different point of view. Confirmation bias. Individuals tend to interpret information in a way that confirms their pre-existing beliefs and preferences. This is cognitive because it is all about how we process, seek out, and store, and then even recall information. So force yourself to gather opinions that make you feel uncomfortable. Number 4, and I picked this for the media team. This is called peak end bias. People largely judge an experience based on how they felt at its emotional peak, and then how they felt at the very end of the experience. So this is again a cognitive bias because it is about how information is stored in your brain and then how you pull it out. Hindsight bias. After an event has occurred, people often believe they would have or even did predict it. Overcoming this bias is critical to becoming a successful career learner. So let's talk about mitigating. Document decisions. Write a hypothesis. If we do X, Y will occur and Z will happen. And there are some strategies that work for all behavioral biases. Number 1, seeking diverse and outsider perspectives on big decisions. Challenge your own decisions. And what did it push us to believe? And what are the risks therein? And now, thunderous round of applause.
In a group environment, I think it's like a subset of like groupthink is that people have competing priorities at the same time. That's something that I've been trying to think through lately is like how do we, as a group, get everyone's opinion on ideas unaffected by the opinions of others about their opinions. It's something I struggle with.
I remember Leila saying on the Monday meeting before we got here, I think I've met all of you in person. And I remember thinking, I think I've met like 4 of you in person. I am on a team that is Justin and I. So I've craved that time with the team, but then getting such a broader experience of everybody else has been really fantastic.
We are a remote company. And so I think like a lot of people lack the connection that I get interaction with the team a lot. Most people don't have that though. And so I look at it as that is probably where I feel like people will get benefit. And so I think it's realizing all the dynamics that exist in an organization and being able to educate everybody on how they affect the environment. So Neil, our portfolio operating partner, is going to give his presentation on the importance of psychological safety in the workplace.
So I'm going to be talking today about the secret to high performance teams. You guys might have heard of Aristotle. He was a philosopher, and he said the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Now what he was referring to was us as humans. The team should also act like a human, right? It should be more than the sum of each individual component. And actually, I want to start by playing a game. It's called Psychologically Safe or Not Psychologically Safe. So there's a senior engineer who would just talk and talk. Everyone was scared. The hardest part was that everyone liked this guy outside the group setting, but whenever they got together as a team, something happening that made the culture go wrong. So how many say high performing? No one. Absolutely. Well, you guys are 100% right. This came from a not high performing team. This one's a little tricky, but let's see what you guys say. At a recent offsite, a teammate stood and described some health issues of her own. Then another discussed a difficult breakup. Our team leader told us he had stage 4 cancer. It was really hard, but a really special moment. All right. High performing. Okay, you guys are great. I actually was a little confused by this one because I was like, how much is too much information? But this actually comes from a very high performing team. So I think what we're recognizing here, by the way, is that I was going to define psychological safety when I was starting this presentation. I was like, let me come up with like some dictionary definition of what psychological safety is. But actually, what we just went through here are all examples of good, psychologically safe teams and not good, not psychologically safe teams, and everyone got it almost unanimously right. And so in teams with high psychological safety, you are comfortable with the other teammates, you can take risks, and the last thing which is really important is that this is like, it's like mental health for the individual, psychological safety is like mental health for the team. A few elements that I want to highlight of what it means to be psychologically safe. So the cool thing was Project Aristotle, Google, they noticed this about high-performing teams, and they've come up with like 7 characteristics of high-performing psychologically safe teams. The first is a learning mindset. Openness to difficult decisions. There's acceptance of others. There's safety from risk. There's collaboration. Support. No one on this team would deliberately act in a way that undermines my efforts. And so what I would like everyone to do, if possible, is let's commit for the next quarter to picking one action. Just one of these 8 actions that you think you can improve on and just committing to it. Okay. Does that work?
How we respond to people's bids in the companies that's something that I was telling Justin, like, I need to work on, because I think lately I've had a lot of meetings and I come back and there's like a 200 slacks, and then I'm just like, normally I go through everything and I respond, and I've just felt busier, and so I just don't. And then I'm like, wow, I'm missing out on so many areas where I could respond to those bids, and I feel like I need to work on that. People say things because they want a reaction. And so if the reaction's not given, eventually they won't say anything. That's why I think people who have a hard time accepting compliments, it's dangerous, because you eventually will get none. Because if your reaction is poor or you reject them, people won't give them to you anymore. And then you think you're not good, but it's simply that your reaction.
It's so easy, I think, when you're in a remote world to just focus on just work. But I think when you're in person like this and you intersperse a remote working environment with situations like this where you get to connect with others, there's like a powerful, more interpersonal connection that you get to foster that's missing.
Last presentation. How are we feeling? Okay.
And lastly, Sheila, our Managing Director of People, is going to give her presentation on how to have hard conversations.
This was something that she felt was my unfair advantage, and that is having hard conversations. 70% of hard conversations are really self-awareness. And so we focus, though, on the 30% that is the delivery. Types of conversations that are hard. The first one is called what happened. The second one is called identity. What does a what happened conversation sound like? Literally, you're trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And everybody's like showing up with their own sets of facts, and they're ready to like hash it out and tell you why you are not right. So maybe think about impact and make the conversation about impact. Because if you focus on intention, it's just going to take you down this path of building distrust or breaking existing trust. The last of the 3 is called identity. When you run into an identity problem, because it's really easy to fall into this notion that I'm either good or bad, I'm competent or incompetent, and this person has now said this thing about me, and that means that they think that I'm an idiot.
The way to go about that is to start by acknowledging, hey, this is a big project. There's a lot at stake here. But this doesn't identify or define either one of us as people. And remember, 70% of this is between your ears. And that's good because that means it is a skill that you can develop and practice and work on.
So you have like the two curves that are inverted with latency and specificity. So the later it is, the more specific it has to be, the sooner it is, the more general it can be. Like with the example that Leila was talking about with the book launch vendor, her communication, it's like, when we always ask, like, what's the goal of this? Like, what problem am I solving? Her goal in that communication was for him to accept some level of responsibility, not to really change his behavior. It's like saying, hey, Johnny, you've been kind of slacking lately. That doesn't change their behavior.
That's why I think the listing of the facts is so important in the discussion planning. It's like, because that's irrefutable. And I think it's like, in going through all this, like the one message that I think is underlying too is like, when we're having these conversations, like what I think you do really well is like, seek not to punish the person, but find a solution. If you want to make sure, hey, this was a bad, like this did not have a good outcome for either of us, it's address the facts and then what can we do to move forward? I just think back to like 8 years ago when we started our first company and we had our first meetup, and it was just me talking the whole time. And there wasn't a lot of connection and probably a decent amount of like punishing events that occurred. Like I've never wanted that, but I have lacked the skill to create what we have now. And to see the team just work so well together and love being together, it felt kind of like I did it. Thank you all for participating, and like it's just been so cool because, you know, I feel like you guys all genuinely want to be here, which is great. It's like, there's just been times in my past where, you know, maybe I didn't have the skill to build a team where people did all genuinely want to be there. And so it feels really cool to feel that in this room. And just like how down you guys are for all the presentations, for all the activities we're doing. And it was just such a shining example of, I think, like, I would be proud to show a portfolio company, like this was our acquisition.com team meetup. I wouldn't want to show up to my office every day and feel like I have to be a different version of Leila. And I don't want people to feel like they have to show up to work every day and be a different version of themselves. I create an environment where people feel safe to be themselves as well.